Hello. Today's chapter 14. It's lean supply chains, not learn supply chains. In this chapter, I'm going to explain what lean production is. I'm also going to illustrate how lean concepts can be applied to the supply chain processes, analyzing supply chain process value stream mapping, learn the lean design principles, and apply lean concepts to service processes. Okay, if we take a look at lean manufacturing processes during the COVID-19 pandemic, we could see U.S. paper towel sales growth. Here's the percentage increase, and then all of a sudden it went down. Plants cannot subtly produce at higher production rates. I think you all are learning this in your simulation game, where you want to make sure that you get the most sales and that you beat your competition, but there's practical realities to that in the sense that you cannot produce everything that you want because you've got a plan for production, whatever. And this is one of the reasons why we ran out of a lot of products, because all of a sudden the demand for these products was not anticipated. You couldn't get them. Hand sanitizer or Lysol spray, toilet paper, a lot of other products that were not available because the demand so exceeded the production. And also we had what's known as panic buying, where people just wanted to hoard everything without any regard to leaving anything for other people. I still have friends who have hundreds of rolls of toilet paper stored in their closets just in case we have another pandemic or another issue with supply chain scarcity. So, a big challenge for manufacturers is how do we find ways to keep lean practices from negatively impacting their recovery? Some of the challenges included dramatic reductions in production capacity due to social distancing in plants and dramatic increases in demand in certain products. Also, you had an issue of people being able to come to work. They weren't allowed to go to work, they weren't allowed to leave their house, or many companies had people that were sick and didn't come to work, so they couldn't fill those positions that were necessary to work on production. But lean production is a set of integrated activities. I keep using fingers. Integrated activities, also aligned activities, and it's designed to achieve high volume production using minimal inventories. Why don't companies want to have a lot of inventory? Let me ask you a question. Why don't you want your companies to have a lot of inventory in your simulation game? I think you know the reasons for that. It involves the elimination of waste in the production. It's the timing of production resources. Parts arrive just in time, and that minimizes the costs to companies because they're not holding inventory for a long time. The way I always explain it to my students is, think of it as a pantry. You have a pantry where you have excess food, and maybe you decide that you want to buy more food than you really need because there's a particular item on, buy one, get one, or you have coupons for something. But if you valued all of the product in your pantry, in essence, this would be your warehouse, or this would be your inventory, and you could have anywhere from nothing to $1,000 in inventory in your closet. And that's money that's tied up that you may not be able to use to go out, to have fun, to buy clothes, to buy dinner. And you have to decide what the right level of inventory is. And it's the same thing with companies. They have to decide what the right level of inventory is going to be for them. So in each step of the supply chain, you create value. As a workstation or an area of a company touches the product, it's supposed to add value. Meaning that you may have one component and then you send it to another workstation and it adds another component. More value is put into that product, and as the product moves down the value chain, it increases in value because something of value is being added to it at each stop. Also, customer value. How much is the customer willing to pay? And what the customer is willing to pay generally depends on time. How much are you willing to pay for a large bottle of Lysol? How much did you pay before the pandemic? How much did you pay during the pandemic? And how much are we paying after the pandemic? I'm sure there's 3 different prices there. And I know I would have paid up to $20 or so for a bottle to get one, because I just felt that product was necessity in terms of killing germs or preventing me from getting COVID. Waste, anything that does not add value from the customer's perspective, and that must be minimized because that will minimize the expenses. Remember, if you're producing 1,000 computers and there's waste on each one of those computers, you multiply that waste cost times 1,000, and that's 1,000 per quarter. So waste expenses add up very quickly, particularly when you have numerical numbers like 1,000 products, 10,000 products, 1,000,000 products, etc. You can see how the cost of waste, if you can minimize it, will make you more efficient and probably more profitable. Uncertainties and variabilities that are hard to control in service. Well, you have your black swan events, which is the COVID-19, uncertainty in task times. Each service delivery has some uniqueness and therefore variability in task times. Uncertainty in demand. You don't know, all of a sudden your product could become very popular because something happens out of your control. A pandemic, a natural disaster, a celebrity endorsement. Look what happens when Oprah Winfrey puts out her favorite things at the end of the year for like Christmas presents. Many of those products all of a sudden sell out or something. I know also that in England, anytime Princess Kate wears something, everybody goes out and buys it, and it's no longer in inventory. Manufacturing can buffer with finished goods inventory, but services cannot, because we can't do what to services? Eddie? That's right, Eddie. We can't inventory services. Very good. Also, capacity must be available when the demand arises. They say that the brightest light bulbs burn best, but they burn fast. So you can also be working overtime all the time and having more capacity, but eventually you're going to burn out. So you can't work at capacity all the time. You always have to have an ability to raise your capacity so that you can handle demand that's unexpected or whatever. So remember that when you're looking at your capacity percentages on your simulation game. Make sure you're not putting it at 100 all the time, because you can't run at that level, and you can't run it overtime all the time, because overtime also costs more money. Customers' production roles. Customers typically are involved in the production of a service, and when you do that, it introduces something called uncertainty. Lean production and Six Sigma. We've heard this term Six Sigma before. Lean production and Six Sigma work best in repeatable, standardized operations. Transaction. Many services are repeatable, but it's actually hard to standardize services. Lean logic is based on the logic that nothing will be produced until it is needed. A sale pulls a replacement from the last position in the system. This triggers an order to the factory production line, and each upstream station then pulls from the next station further upstream. So if we take a look at this chart on the lean production pull system, okay, we have customers. Well, let's start here. Vendors, okay, then you have the fabrication. You add value for one thing, then you add more value, and then you have a sub-assembly, and then final assembly, and then it's available for customers. So each stage of the system is tightly linked. Material is pulled through the system only when there is demand. The Toyota production system, okay? Many years ago in the 1970s, the Japanese were killing the American automobile industry because back in the day, Ford was referred to as found on road dead. The quality of American automobiles was not that good. The Japanese developed a better production system. They actually utilized the teaching of Dr. Deming for lean production, and their cars were of much better quality, and they were outselling the American cars. As a matter of fact, I think the Honda Accord was the #1 car in the United States for maybe 20 years. But the production system that Toyota had was very good because it had elimination of waste and also respect for people. And you can see from this chart some of the this PowerPoint slide, some of the things that the Toyota production system was prevalent in terms of elimination of waste and respect for employees. Lean supply chains. As the concepts of Lean and Six Sigma have been applied to the supply chain, the goal of maximizing customer value has been added. We're doing some of the things here. I think some of the initiatives that I'm trying to do in the Patterson School of Business could be considered maybe Lean supply chain, because what we're looking to do is we're looking to enhance the student experience. We're looking to provide classes from qualified and educated professors who have experience in teaching and in most cases in business. So we're actually applying Lean supply concepts within the university. Value stream, excuse me, that's value adding and non-value adding activities required to design, order, or provide a product or service from concept to launch, order to delivery, and raw materials to customers. When applied in supply chains, waste reduction relates to the optimization of the value-adding activities and the elimination of non-value-adding activities. You get that? Donovan, you good? Excellent. Let's move on. Lean-focused supply chain components. Lean suppliers. These are suppliers that are able to respond to any changes that you have. Also ones that have lower prices and higher quality. It is incumbent upon the manager or the director of operations or the person who's responsible for selecting suppliers to have fully vetted these Lean suppliers so that they can respond to your changes and have lower prices and also high quality. Lean procurement. Key is automation or e-procurement. Suppliers must see into the customer's operation and customers must see into their supplier's operation. That's sharing of information. You're working together. Lean manufacturing. This is where you apply Lean concepts in manufacturing. Typically presents the greatest opportunities for cost reduction and quality improvement. Then we have Lean warehousing. Eliminate non-value added steps and waste in the storage process. Makes sense, right? Lean logistics. Optimize mode selection and pooling orders. You're working on this in your simulation game, right? Because you're selecting the type of transportation that you want for your products to be delivered to you. Do you want it next day, intermediate, or the slow boat to China? That will minimize your expenses, but then it's going to delay you in receiving your goods, and you may not be able to ship on those days where you haven't received your goods. Sometimes just in time is very good for being efficient, but then what happens if you don't have your goods arrive on time? Then you're stuck. So Lean logistics, optimize mode selection and pooling orders, combined multi-stop truckloads, optimize routing, cross-docking. Anyone know what cross-docking is? Anyone? Cross-docking is when product is delivered and as soon as it comes off the truck, it gets shipped on another truck. This is a way of companies doing inventory turnover very quickly, because if you overturn your inventory multiple times in a month, you're probably going to have some type of cross-docking operation. But to be able to receive goods the same day and ship them out the same day, that makes a company run very efficiently, and you will be able to maximize sales and profits by doing that. Import-export transportation processes. In my previous lives at different companies, I was an import manager, an export manager, so I understand the processes here, and many times we had to expedite the process because we had customers who were clamoring for the goods that were coming from Italy or Asia or wherever they were coming in, and we had to make sure that we got them in as soon as possible. And one of the important things is making sure that your documentation was good so that things could get cleared by customs. Also, backhaul minimization. What's backhaul? Ivica? Yes, that's right. We want to minimize backhauls, because backhaul is when you go somewhere, you deliver your product, and then you have nothing in it coming back, and it's wasted, and it may end up costing you a lot of money if you have an empty truck traveling. Lean customers understand their business needs, value, speed, and flexibility. It's important. Must establish effective partnerships with your supplier. You're both in this together, and it's gone is the day when a supplier would just drop off the goods and wouldn't be involved. You're aligned with your suppliers to make sure they are fulfilling your orders, and they are fulfilling your orders in a timely process. It's important that you continuously communicate with them. You don't just send off a PO and then just wait for the delivery. There needs to be a communication in there so that you know what's going on, particularly if there's a problem in the delivery of the product to you in the time frames that you've requested. Better to know as soon as possible than at the last moment. Value stream mapping. This is important. It's a special type of flow charting tool for development of the lean processes, and it's used to visualize product flows through various processing steps. This visualization will illustrate the information flows, and generally, if it's done properly, it will identify those backlogs or those kinks or those bottlenecks that you have in the process. And by doing this visualization, you can see what's working and what's not working, and then you can focus and concentrate your efforts on those bottlenecks and trying to repair them. Here's a manufacturing process map. Okay? Production control. This is where everything starts. This is where the decisions are made in terms of, well, how much product am I going to make for the particular quarter or particular year or whatever. You all are doing this as you sit down and you begin to make your decisions for the quarter. And then all of this information here goes to a production supervisor, and then it goes out to the various aspects of your operation, and then you ship to a supplier, or you get product sent to you from a customer. So take a look at this. You can see how long things take and what's involved in the manufacturing process. And this obviously changes with different type of manufacturing. You know, you could have automobile manufacturing. You could have oil recovery from the ground, from oil wells, and then what happens to the oil after it comes out of the ground? It has to get processed, and then it gets processed into a variety of products, gasoline, motor oil, whatever. And these process maps are different from all the different products. Value stream mapping. Here's process symbols, customer, supplier, process, the data box, work cell, operator. Here's material symbols and information symbols. And you just put that together. You basically walk through what your process is. Sometimes people design this without having any system in place because they've got to design a new production facility, a new value stream map. Analysis showing potential areas for improving the process. So here we've cataloged the process and laid it out. And we have a supplier providing the product. It's shipping twice weekly. Is that enough? Do we have to change that? Fax twice weekly. Should it be faxed every day for the orders? Lot size for 250 pieces. Bottleneck equal machining. Shipping Do we need more trucks to ship if we're able to increase our productivity? So these are areas where we analyze the value stream process and look for potential areas for improving process. Much easier to take a look at this type of documentation than it is if you're actually physically in a warehouse walking around. You can actually see everything laid out on a piece of paper or a slide or a map. So lean supply chain design principles, lean layouts. We talked about layouts in one of the previous chapters. I asked you in the discussion group to explain the different layouts and ask you, why is it important? Well, it's important for layout because if product is moving through a process, you better make sure that your layout is logical and makes sense. Otherwise, it could be in the wrong place, or you have extra walking or extra movement of product, which then would be wasteful. Lean production schedules and lean supply chains are important. And I don't need to read the items below it. Lean concepts. Plant layout is designed to ensure balanced workflow with a minimum of WIP inventory. What is WIP inventory? Catherine? That's right, work in process inventory. We want to make sure that we minimize work in process inventory because you can't do anything with it until it's finished. And if it's not finished, it ain't shipping. Preventative maintenance is emphasized to avoid downtime. Preventative maintenance is really important, particularly if you're running at high capacities. Because then what happens? A lot of times when you run something at high capacity, what happens? Donovan? That's right, Donovan. Things break. Things break, and if it breaks, what happens? Production is ended, and then you have to wait until something is fixed. I had a capstone project with students at my last university at one of the largest liquor distributors. Now this place was over 1 million square feet. They had over $100 million worth of alcohol inventory here, and they had more Grey Goose in 40-foot racks than I've ever seen in my life. They also had 7 miles of conveyors. And these conveyors whipped around and moved product really fast through this 1 million square foot warehouse. But sometimes what would happen is product would get flung too fast and it would fall off of the conveyor and break. Sometimes it would break on the conveyor, and then alcohol would spill and it would jam up the rollers or the motors, and then boom, production was down, and they were producing and shipping 120,000 cases of liquor a day. So we were taking inventory of their replacement parts, and they didn't care about the inventory of their replacement parts if they had 3 pieces, 8 pieces, or whatever, because it was so important. If something broke down, they wanted to make sure they had that inventory available so they could put that conveyor system back up. Because every hour, now think about it, they worked, it was 10 hours a day, so that's 12,000 cases an hour. Every hour that they're down is 12,000 cases that they're not shipping. So having a system that's not maintained properly is going to cost them a lot of money. So it's imperative that if system does go down, that you have the replacement parts there to be able to bring it back up as quick and as soon as possible. Group technology, a philosophy in which similar parts are grouped into families. The process required to make the parts are arranged in a manufacturing cell. It eliminates the movement and queue time between operations, reduces inventory, and it also reduces employees. Quality at the source. Do it right the first time, and if something goes wrong, stop the process immediately. And then after you stop that process, fix it. Workers are personally responsible for the quality of their output. Workers become their own inspectors, and workers are empowered to do their own maintenance. It's important that you give workers that authority, and they'll take that authority to make sure that things don't run wrong. Then there's something else called JIT, production. What's JIT production? Class? I can't hear you louder. That's right, just in time. Not Justin Timberlake. Just in time production, producing what is needed and nothing more. Anything over the minimum is complete waste. And it's typically applied to repetitive manufacturing or manufacturing that is producing high quantities of product. Ideal lot size is 1. Vendors actually come in and ship several times a day, so it's continuous. JIT exposes problems otherwise hidden by inventory. How do you know that? How does JIT expose problems otherwise hidden by inventory? I'll answer this one. JIT exposes problems otherwise hidden by inventory because inventory hides a lot of sins because you just keep shipping from your existing inventory. JIT is just in time, and when you have things just in time, they need to run more efficiently because you have to have the production processes working in tandem and working properly. So if something is not working, you're going to discover it immediately because you don't have a lot of excess and waste, and things are streamlined, so if something goes wrong, it's going to impact the entire system. Inventory hides problems. Okay? If this is the level of inventory you have here, this is height, you have machine downtime, scrap, vendor delinquencies. Sometimes the vendor ships you product and it's subpar or it's not good quality. If you've got a lot of the inventory, you're not going to discover it for a while. But if it's JIT, you'll discover that much quicker. Engineering design redundancies, order backlog, all these different things are called productivity problems. And having a high level of inventory, you can hide that. But also the quality. High inventory also hides quality issues. So inventory hides a host of problems. Lean production schedules, you have a level schedule, freeze windows, backflush, or uniform plant loading, and I don't have to read these for you, you can read them yourself. Kanban production control systems. Kanban is a pull system, a signal device used to control production. Kanban means sign or instruction card in Japanese. Cards or containers are used. Many companies generally use for high production or repetitive production of products. Kanban pull system. Workers take the first part from a full container and then withdraw the Kanban from the container and take the card to the machine storage area, etc., etc. You can read this yourself. I don't have to read that for you. Other approaches, Kanban squares, container system, colored golf balls, a variety of things, other approaches you can use. Minimize setup times. Reduction in setup and changeover times are necessary to achieve a smooth flow. Kanban significantly reduces the setup costs, and the organization will strive for a lot size of 1. Lean supply chains. There's specialized plants. Specialized plants rather than large vertically integrated manufacturing facilities. It can be constructed and operated much more cheaply. Also, you collaborate with the suppliers. Building a lean supply chain. Value must be defined jointly. All firms along the value stream must make an adequate return on their investment. Firms must work together to eliminate waste so overall target cost and ROI targets are met. ROI, return on investment. When cost targets are met, the firms will conduct new analysis to identify remaining waste and set new targets. One of my former bosses, a very important mentor to me in my life, I worked for a toy company, and the guy's name was Stanley Geller, and he loved his Cuban cigars. Yeah, he actually smoked Cuban cigars in the U.S. I don't know how he got them, I don't care, I know they were illegal. But he would sit there, and he'd smoke his cigar like this, and he'd roll it, and then he'd say to me, "Jimmy, we do things the second best way, and we're always looking for the best way." And I never forgot that axiom because it's true. If you're doing things the second best way and you're looking for the best way, that means you never stop. So it's continuous improvement. And what happens over time, people change, technology changes, policies and processes changing. So if you're continuing to look for the best way, you'll continue to refine your operations and improve them. You can't remain stagnant and not moving along and improving. This is the example I told you about in the beginning of the semester about Blockbuster. They thought they had a great product and they didn't think they had to improve it. They ignored the competition. It wasn't a continuous process of improvement, and look what happened. Every participating firm has the right to examine every activity relevant to the value stream as part of the joint search for waste. That's collaborating. It's not only aligning the individual company, but it's also aligning multiple companies to produce the most efficient product in the most efficient way. Lean services include organized problem-solving groups, upgrade housekeeping, upgrade quality, clarify process flows, revise equipment and process technologies, level the facility load, eliminate unnecessary activities, reorganize physical configuration, introduce demand pull scheduling, and develop supplier networks. These are all lean services that help for efficient manufacturing or production operations. In summary, lean production involves improving processes by eliminating waste and excess inventory. The just-in-time philosophy is the basis for this concept. It includes the entire supply chain with the goal of creating value for the customers by eliminating all non-value-adding activities. Lean concepts can also be applied, and the value stream mapping is a flowcharting tool used to visualize the flows through a process. The goal is to identify ways to lean a process by eliminating waste and creating value for customers. Okay, we are done. Thank you.